Imagion Biosystems has released an update on its in-human breast cancer clinical trial to help detect for an imaging agent breast cancer can detect tumour cells. To go and talk us through the exciting technology, Chief Executive Bob Poole joins us here on the Small Caps program. Bob, thank you for joining us here on the show. To the layperson, what is the technology that you're developing there? How is it different to what already exists out there?
Yes, great. Thanks for asking, and thanks for having me on the show. So today we know that there's 5 basic ways to image the body, right? We've got X-ray, CT, PET, ultrasound, and MRI. And they all do a good job of imaging the anatomy, but they're not very good at telling whether a tumor is benign lesion or if it's actually cancer. So what we're trying to develop is that next generation of technology that actually allows us to specifically be able to determine whether or not what we see there is actually cancer. And so what we're using is cancer-specific magnetic nanoparticles that actually go in and tag the cancer, and so that when we see a spot, we actually know it's cancer. So we're trying to move imaging from identifying, say, a suspicious lesion to actually what's known as true molecular diagnostic imaging.
Okay, so very exciting technology. You've just done some recent trials when it comes to breast cancer treatment. What have you managed to go and find?
Yeah, so we're in the middle of this. It's a small study. I mean, recognizing that this is the first of its kind. This is the first time, as far as we're aware, that any company has developed an imaging agent based on targeted magnetic nanoparticles. So it's a small first-in-human study. We're still in process, but we had tested enough patients for this that we felt that we could report some interim results. And so, being a small first-in-human study, the first thing we wanted to know is about safety and tolerability of the imaging agent. And then do we have evidence that the imaging agent is actually reaching the target tumor cells and being able to bind to them for their detectability? So what we reported yesterday in our announcement was that so far of the patients tested to date completing the study, it's safe and well tolerated, that we have good evidence that the particles are reaching the tumor cells and are detectable. We can't draw any conclusions yet as to sort of the effectiveness of the imaging results, but we're strongly encouraged by what we've seen so far with these first patients.
You said that the trials, of course, ongoing for the time being. When do you expect to have a more clear picture as to the success?
Yes, so one of the things that we did include in that was that we'd have to continue testing more patients, right? We don't have enough data to draw any conclusions yet. So we've anticipated that we'll certainly should be able to complete the study during the course of this year. Recruitment has been a little slower than we'd anticipated, partly as everybody's been affected by COVID and that, but we're starting to see the hospitals, we've got multiple sites recruiting into the study. So we're starting to see progression of our study. So we'll continue to do that to test more patients. We anticipate, as I said, trying to complete that study certainly by the end of the year, if not well in advance of that. But based on the results that we've seen to date, we're encouraged enough that we're going to start to make plans for how to enlarge this, take it outside of Australia, and really do the kind of enabling studies that will be necessary for us to support regulatory clearance and eventually commercialization.
Breakthrough device designation from the FDA sounds pretty important. What does it mean for the company?
Yeah, so it's one of those things that the FDA has various ways of looking at the products that are brought to them, and they created this special category called breakthrough devices because what they wanted to be able to do was accelerate the process of going through the FDA to get approval for things. It doesn't change the kind of testing and studies that we have to do, but what it does do is it gives us a more favorable way to interact with them. So they have a much more responsive approach to dealing with companies that they've been given breakthrough device, because their view is if they view this, as a breakthrough technology, then they want to try to get that breakthrough into the market as quickly as possible. So it allows us to have dialogue with them in a more expedient way. We'll still have to do, as I said, all the necessary formalities of things, but it gives us a chance to interact with them on a more regular basis and in a more expedient way.
Just to finish off, the key question, funding. How funded are you to go and continue these important trials?
Yeah, so we're in pretty good shape right now. We've got enough funding to get us through this study and get us starting to work on the next phase of things. We're anticipating that not having to raise capital in the foreseeable future. We'll continue to watch as we do that, but our current expenditure rate is based on trying to get through this study and set us up for the next phase of study testing that we need to do. So I don't think that we'll see significant work towards capital raising, certainly not in the next quarter or so. We'll have to wait and see how many more patients we can get through and what it really tells us.
Well, Bob, we wish you best of luck. It's a very important thing you're working on there, so we wish you all the best in those endeavours. Thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Great. Thanks very much.